The smell of unwashed bodies and cheap disinfectant filled the air inside the Helios 7 slave market. Hannah stood on the metal platform under harsh white lights, her wrists bound in energy cuffs that hummed with a low electric buzz. This was her 5th auction in 3 years. She knew the routine by now. Around her, alien traders moved through the crowded warehouse. There were tall, blue-skinned Vin with their forearms folded in judgment. Short, reptilian Krell clicked their tongues as they examined the merchandise. Even a few insectoid Thraz buzzed past, their compound eyes reflecting the overhead lights. All of them looking for something useful, something worth buying. None of them looked at her for more than a second. The auctioneer was a fat Vin named Gorak. He jabbed a shock prod near Hannah's ribs without actually touching her. She didn't flinch. She stood perfectly still, eyes focused on nothing, mouth slightly open. Drool gathered at the corner of her lips. She let it stay there. "Here we have lot 73, Gorak announced in the common trade language. His voice boomed across the hall. Human female. Age approximately 25 standard cycles. Previous owners report cognitive deficiencies. Unable to follow complex commands. Responds poorly to training." A few traders laughed. Humans were already considered the bottom tier of galactic species. Too weak, too slow, too fragile. A broken human was worth less than the recycling fee for their biomass. Gorak poked her shoulder with the prod. Hannah swayed slightly, but kept her vacant expression. She'd practiced this look in every reflective surface she could find over the years. Empty eyes. Slack jaw. The appearance of someone with nothing happening behind their eyes. "Starting bid is 10 credits, Gorak said without enthusiasm. Silence filled the warehouse. Somewhere in the back, someone coughed. A Krell merchant spat on the floor. "Fine, 5 credits. Anyone?" More silence. Hannah could feel their disgust. Good. Disgust meant they wouldn't look closer. Wouldn't ask questions. Wouldn't wonder why a human had survived 5 owners without being killed or discarded. 3 credits and I'm sending her to recycling, Gorak threatened. Hannah had been to 17 auctions total. Bought and sold. Returned for refund. Resold at loss. Each time she played her role perfectly. Each time she moved through the galaxy's underground, invisible, while the most powerful beings in 3 sectors searched desperately for what she carried. The data burned in her, neural pathways, coordinates, access codes, the location of the archive. She'd encoded it into her own brain using experimental technology before her research ship was destroyed, before her crew was murdered, before she made the choice to disappear into the one place no one would ever look for something valuable. Slave market for defective goods. The warehouse door opened. A human walked in, and Hannah's heart rate increased slightly. She forced it back down. Control. Always control. The human was male, maybe 30 years old, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a salvager's coat, patched and worn. He moved through the crowd like someone who'd been to places like this before. His name tag read Teeman in both human script and common trade language. Teeman wasn't looking at the auction platform. He was scanning the equipment stalls that lined the walls. Searching for ship parts, probably. Most humans who came to Helios 7 were desperate salvagers trying to keep their vessels running on almost nothing. No bids? Gorak's voice dripped with false surprise. Then we're done here. Lot 73 goes to recycling. He grabbed Hannah's arm to pull her off the platform. This was the dangerous moment. If she went to recycling, they'd scan her. They'd find the neural modifications. They'd cut her brain apart to see what she was hiding. Hannah calculated. She had maybe 4 seconds to act. She could break free, kill Gorak, fight her way out. But that would expose her. Every faction in the sector would know she was here. The hunt would intensify. Wait. The voice came from the human. Teeman had stopped walking. He was looking at her now. Actually looking at her. Not through her or past her, but at her dot. Hannah kept her expression blank, but something cold moved down her spine. His eyes were too focused. Too intelligent. He'd seen something. 5 credits, Teeman said. The warehouse erupted in laughter. A Vin trader near the front slapped his knee with all 4 hands. The human's buying another human. That's rich. Are you serious? Gorak asked, grinning. You understand this one is defective, yes? She can barely feed herself. 5 credits, Teeman repeated. He walked to the platform and held out a credit chip. Gorak snatched it eagerly. Sold, and no refunds, human. She's your problem now. More laughter followed them as Teeman led Hannah off the platform. He kept one hand on her arm, guiding her through the crowd. The traders parted around them, still chuckling. Another stupid human making another stupid decision. They walked through the warehouse and out into the station corridor. Teeman moved quickly, taking turns through the maze-like passages of Helios 7. Hannah shuffled along, maintaining her act. But her mind was racing. Why had he bought her? What had he seen? Was he working for one of the factions? Was this a trap? They reached a docking bay. Teeman's ship sat on pad 17. It was old, a Hawk-class freighter that had seen better decades. Patched hull plating. Mismatched engine pods. The name Wandering Star was barely visible under layers of scoring and repair paint. TAEMIN led her up the ramp and into the cargo bay. The door sealed behind them with a hiss. He released her arm and stepped back, watching her carefully. Hannah maintained her vacant stare, waiting, calculating her next move. Teeman crossed his arms. You can drop the act now. Hannah didn't move, didn't blink. I saw you, Teeman continued. His voice was quiet but firm. In the auction house. When Gorak threatened you with the prod, everyone else flinched before it even touched them. You didn't. Not because you're stupid. Because you knew exactly how close it was. You were tracking its position perfectly. Still Hannah said nothing. And your eyes, Teeman added. For just a second when I bid, you looked at me. Really looked at me. I saw the calculations happening. You were deciding if I was a threat. Hannah's mind worked through possibilities. Kill him. Take the ship. Run or trust. The riskiest option. The one she'd been waiting 3 years to take. She let her shoulders straighten. Let her eyes focus. Let the mask fall away. We need to jump to hyperspace, she said. Her voice was clear and sharp. Right now. They're coming. Teeman's eyes widened. Who's coming? Everyone, Hannah said. She moved past him to the cockpit. How fast can this ship move? Wait, you can't just... The ship's proximity alarms screamed to life. On the view screen, multiple vessels were entering the system. Military-grade ships. 3 different species. All converging on their location. TAEMIN stared at the screen. What did I just buy? Hannah's fingers flew across the navigation console, inputting coordinates faster than any human should be able to move. 5 credits worth of the biggest mistake of your life. Now sit down and let me fly, or we're both dead in the next 90 seconds. Teeman fell into the co-pilot seat as Hannah's hands danced across the controls. The cargo ship groaned and shuddered as she pushed the engines past their safety limits. Through the viewport, the docking clamps released and Helios 7 station grew smaller behind them. Who are you? Teeman shouted over the engine noise. Hannah didn't answer. She was too focused on the navigation display. 5 ships were moving to intercept them. 2 were Vin warships, their weapon systems already charging. One was a Krell destroyer. Two others belonged to species Teeman didn't recognize. "Kyung," Hannah called out. "Activate defensive systems." The ship's artificial intelligence responded with a crackling voice. "Defensive systems are offline. Repairs needed. Would you like to override safety protocols? Reroute power from life support to engines. That will reduce oxygen levels to do it now." Teeman grabbed the armrest as the ship lurched forward. On the screen, the pursuing vessels matched their acceleration. "My ship can't outrun warships." "I know," Hannah said calmly. She pulled up a star map and traced a path with her finger. "But they're bigger, less maneuverable. We're heading for the asteroid field at Mark 773. That's suicide. The density in there is... I know the density. Strap in." The first weapon's fire lit up the darkness behind them. Energy bolts streaked past the viewport, close enough that Teeman could see their blue glow reflected on Hannah's face. She didn't flinch. Her eyes tracked everything, calculating, adjusting, their trajectory with tiny corrections. That seemed random, but kept them just ahead of the targeting computers. Asteroid field appeared ahead like a wall of tumbling rock. Chunks of ice and stone, some as small as Teeman's fist, others large as buildings. They moved in chaotic patterns, colliding and fragmenting constantly. Most pilots gave the field a wide margin. Smart pilots stayed away completely. Hannah flew straight into it. Teeman closed his eyes. He heard the hull scrape against something, felt the ship twist and dive, opened his eyes to see a massive asteroid filling the viewport, close enough to see the craters on its surface. Hannah rolled the ship 90 degrees and threaded between two colliding rocks with maybe a meter of clearance on each side. Behind them, one of the Vin warships tried to follow. It clipped an asteroid and spun out of control, smashing into a larger fragment. The explosion lit up the field like a small sun. "4 left," Hannah muttered. She dove under a slow-spinning ice chunk and boosted the engines again. The Krell destroyer was more cautious. It fired into the field, trying to blast a clear path. Asteroids exploded into shrapnel that pinged off Teeman's hull. Warning lights filled the cockpit. Hull breach in Section 4. Pressure dropping. Engine 2 overheating. Hannah's face remained calm. She pulled up a three-dimensional map of the field and found a narrow channel between the larger asteroids. Hold on. The ship dropped and rolled through a gap that shouldn't have been possible. Teeman felt his stomach lurch. Then they were through, emerging on the far side of the field with empty space ahead. "Jump to hyperspace," Hannah commanded. "Now." Teeman reached for the controls, but his hands were shaking. "Coordinates?" "Anywhere. Just jump." He punched in the first safe route he could find and pulled the lever. The stars stretched into lines. The ship shuddered and reality twisted sideways. Then they were in the gray tunnel of hyperspace, safe for at least a few hours. Teeman sat back in his chair, breathing hard. What the hell was that? Hannah finally stopped moving. She closed her eyes and took a long breath. When she opened them again, she looked tired, human, vulnerable in a way she hadn't looked before. "My name is Hannah," she said quietly. "And I'm sorry I dragged you into this." "Into what?" "Who are those ships? Why are they hunting you?" Hannah unbuckled her restraints and stood. She moved to the back of the cockpit and leaned against the wall. 3 years ago, I was part of a human research vessel called the Morning Light. We were mapping old jump routes in the frontier territories. Boring work. Safe work. She was quiet for a moment. Teeman waited. "We found something," Hannah continued. "Ancient coordinates buried in a dead satellite. They led to a location that matched legends about something called the Archive. Technology from a civilization that existed millions of years before any current species achieved spaceflight. Teeman had heard stories about precursor civilizations. Every species had their myths. Ancient builders who left mysterious artifacts scattered across the galaxy. Most scientists considered it fantasy. The archive is real, Hannah said, as if reading his thoughts. And the coordinates we found? They're the only known path to reaching it. Every major faction in the galaxy wants it. They believe it contains weapons, technology that could make them unstoppable. So they came after your ship? Hannah nodded. They destroyed us before we could report our findings. Killed my crew. I was the only survivor because I was in the medical bay getting routine neural mapping done. When the attack started, I made a choice. I took the archive coordinates and I encoded them directly into my brain tissue using the medical equipment. Teeman stared at her. You put data into your brain? Experimental wetware technology. The data is woven into my neural pathways now. Can't be extracted without killing me. Can't be scanned by normal equipment. The only way to access it is through me, and I'm the only person who knows how to retrieve it. Why not just give it to someone? Your government? Other humans? Hannah laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think humans would use it wisely? You think any species would? I've seen what people do with power, Teeman. I've seen how the good guys justify anything once they have the upper hand. The archive doesn't just contain technology. It contains the power to reshape the galaxy. That kind of power corrupts everyone. She pushed off the wall and started pacing. So I let them capture me. I played broken, damaged, worth nothing. I moved through the slave markets for 3 years, because no one looks for something valuable in the garbage. I've been sold 17 times, beaten, starved, tested, but I survived because I was patient. Teeman felt sick. 3 years of that? Why didn't you escape sooner? Because I was waiting, Hannah said. She stopped pacing and looked directly at him. I was waiting for someone who would see me. Really see me. Not as a tool or a threat or a piece of merchandise, but as a person. And you think I'm that person? You spent your last 5 credits on a slave everyone thought was worthless. You didn't buy me because you saw potential profit. You bought me because something in you recognized I was human, and humans shouldn't be on auction blocks. She smiled slightly. That's rare. Rare enough to risk trusting. Teeman ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. Those ships back there, they're going to keep hunting us. More will come. We can't run forever. I know. So what's your plan? Hannah sat down in the co-pilot seat. I don't have one yet. For 3 years, my only goal was survival. Now, she looked out at the swirling gray of hyperspace. Now I need to figure out what to do with knowledge that everyone wants, but no one should have. Teeman wanted to be angry, wanted to throw her off his ship at the next station. But he couldn't, because she was right. He had seen her. In that auction house, surrounded by creatures who looked at humans like talking animals, he'd seen the person everyone else missed. How long do we have before they track us again? He asked. Maybe a day. Maybe less. They'll have traced our jump signature. Then we use that time to figure this out. Teeman stood and headed for the cargo bay. First, we need to repair the hull breach. Then we need food. Then we need a plan that doesn't end with both of us dead. Hannah followed him. Why are you helping me? Teeman stopped and looked back at her. Because you're right. Humans shouldn't be worth 5 credits. And if the galaxy thinks we are, then maybe it's time someone proved them wrong. The hull repair took 6 hours. Teeman worked on the exterior patches while Hannah handled the internal systems. She moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, fixing things he didn't even know were broken. His engines ran smoother. His navigation computer stopped glitching. Even the lights seemed brighter. "Where did you learn all this?" Teeman asked, watching her rewire a control panel. "Research vessels require everyone to know basic maintenance," Hannah said. "And I had 3 years of watching other people's ships fall apart." "You learn a lot by observing." They emerged from hyperspace in a neutral sector. Empty space with no stations or habitable planets. Safe, for now. Teeman heated up ration packs while Hannah studied star charts in the cockpit. "They'll expect us to run toward human space," she said when he brought her food. "So we go the opposite direction, toward the frontier territories." Teeman sat beside her. "That's where the most dangerous species operate. Pirates, slavers, worse things." "Exactly. They'll think we're avoiding danger, not running toward it. We need to buy time to think." The ship's communication system beeped. Incoming transmission on an encrypted human frequency. Hannah and Teeman exchanged glances. She nodded, and he accepted the call. A man's face appeared on the screen. Human, maybe 40 years old, with scars across his cheek and military bearing. "This is Doyan, speaking for the Human Liberation Front. We know who you are, Hannah. We know what you carry." Hannah's expression didn't change. "How did you find us?" "We've been tracking you for 2 years, watching, waiting for the right moment." Doyan leaned closer to his camera. "The data in your head could change everything for our species. With the archive's technology, humans could finally stand equal to the other races. We could demand respect instead of begging for scraps." "No," Anna said simply. Doyan blinked. "You haven't heard our proposal yet." "I don't need to." "You want power? You think having better weapons or faster ships will make aliens respect humans? It won't. Power just makes people fear you, and fear breeds hatred. I've seen this story before. You've seen humans treated like animals for 3 years, and you don't want revenge?" Doyan's voice rose. "You don't want our species to finally have an advantage?" Hannah stood and walked closer to the screen. "I spent 3 years on auction blocks. I was beaten, starved, and sold like broken furniture. You know what I learned? That every species believes they deserve to be on top. Every species thinks if they just had more power, they'd use it wisely. But power doesn't make you wise. It just makes you dangerous. So you'll keep that data locked away? Let humanity stay weak? I'll keep it away from people who think strength comes from weapons." Hannah ended the transmission. Teeman stared at her. "That was the Human Liberation Front. They're the largest resistance movement we have. They're people who've been hurt and want to hurt back. I understand it. I feel it too sometimes. But the archive isn't a weapon. It's something else. And until I understand what, I won't give it to anyone." Over the next few days, they moved through 3 systems, always staying ahead of pursuit. The Vin sent hunters. The Krell offered rewards. Even smaller factions joined the chase, hoping to claim the prize. Hannah taught Teeman how to hide in plain sight. They disguised the ship's signature, changed their identification codes, landed at stations where no one asked questions. She showed him tricks she'd learned in the markets. How to read body language across species. How to know when someone was lying. How to become invisible by being unremarkable. "You're not like other humans I've met," Teeman said one night as they sat in the darkened cockpit. Stars drifted past the viewport. "What do you mean?" "Most humans I know are either broken by the galaxy or angry at it. You're neither. You survived 3 years of hell, and you're still thinking clearly, still making rational choices." Hannah was quiet for a long time. "Do you know why humans are considered weak? Because we don't have natural weapons. No claws or venom or thick armor. We're soft. That's what everyone thinks. But it's wrong." Hannah pulled up an image on the console. It showed a Vin warrior, all four arms holding weapons. The Vin are strong, fast. They evolved on a high-gravity world where only the toughest survived. They're naturally superior warriors. She changed the image to a Krell. The Krell have armored skin and regenerative abilities. They can survive injuries that would kill any human instantly. Another image. A Thraz. The Thraz have hive intelligence. They can coordinate thousands of individuals perfectly. No human military can match that level of organization. So we are weak, Teeman said. No, we're adaptable. Hana zoomed out to show the whole galaxy. Every other species evolved to survive in their specific environment. They became perfect for their home world. But humans? We evolved to be good enough at everything. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. But we can learn. We can change. We can survive anywhere. She pointed to the star map. Humans live on 100 different worlds now. Desert planets. Ice worlds. High gravity. Low gravity. We adapt. And more than that, we see patterns. We connect ideas. That's why humans invented most of the galaxy's philosophy, most of the art, most of the new technologies. In the last century, came from human. Engineers taking alien concepts and combining them in ways no one else imagined. The galaxy doesn't see it that way, because we let them underestimate us. Because being underestimated is an advantage. Hana smiled. I spent 3 years being dismissed as worthless. Do you know how much I learned? I studied 30 different species, learned their languages, their psychology, their weaknesses. Every moment on those auction blocks, I was gathering information. Every cruel master taught me something about their species. I became an expert in galactic psychology because everyone thought I was too stupid to pay attention to. Teeman began to understand. You turned your captivity into education. Humans do that. We find advantage in disadvantage. It's our real strength. An alarm interrupted them. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Not behind them this time, but ahead. They were surrounded. They're learning, Hana muttered, fingers flying over controls. Coordinating better. On screen, 6 ships formed a loose sphere around them. Vin, Krell, 2 species Teeman didn't recognize. All military grade. All heavily armed. We can't fight that many, Teeman said. No, but we can make them fight each other. Hana opened communication channels to all 6 ships simultaneously. This is Hana of the Morning Light. I'm prepared to discuss terms for the archive data. Every ship responded at once. Their voices overlapped, each demanding she surrender to them specifically. Here's my offer, Hana continued calmly. I'll give the data to whichever one of you can answer a simple question correctly. You have 2 minutes to respond. Silence. Confused silence. The question is this: what is the value of a broken thing? Teeman looked at her. She winked at him. The responses came quickly. The Vin captain said broken things have salvage value. The Krell said broken things should be recycled for resources. One alien said broken things have no value at all. Wrong, Hana said to each one. All wrong. The ships moved closer, weapons charging. They were losing patience. Last chance, the Vin captain growled. Surrender or die. Wait, Teeman said. He understood now. I know the answer. Hana smiled. Tell them. Teeman spoke clearly. The value of a broken thing depends on who's looking at it. To most people, it's worthless. But to someone who sees clearly, who looks past the damage, a broken thing might be the most valuable thing in the galaxy. The ships held position, confused. Correct, Hana said. She turned to Min. Hold on. She'd been slowly positioning their ship during the conversation. Now she fired the engines at full power, shooting through a gap in the surrounding formation. Behind them, the 6 ships opened fire, not at the wandering star, but at each other. Each believed the others had received the data. The space lit up with weapons fire as former allies became instant enemies. Teeman and Hana jumped to hyperspace before the fighting reached them. "You just started a war," Teeman said. "I bought us time," Hana corrected. "They'll be too busy fighting each other to chase us. Maybe now we can figure out what to do next." 2 weeks passed. Hana and Teeman moved through the frontier territories like ghosts, never staying anywhere long. They worked odd jobs to earn credits. Teeman used his salvage skills, while Hana fixed ships and equipment for traders who didn't ask questions. The fighting Hana had started between the various factions continued to escalate. News broadcasts showed battles across 3 sectors. The Vin blamed the Krell. The Krell accused the Thras. Everyone was certain someone else had the archive data. "They're tearing themselves apart," Teeman said, watching a report about a destroyed space station. "Good," Hana replied, though her voice was sad. "Maybe they'll realize the archive isn't worth this." They were docked at a small mining station called Rust Haven when Teeman heard screaming from the market level. He ran toward the sound and found a crowd gathered around a cage. Inside was a human woman, thin and pale, wearing the collar of a science slave. "Please," the woman was saying in human language. "Please, I'm not supposed to be here. There's been a mistake." The slave merchant, a Krell with greasy scales, laughed. "No mistake. Your research facility sold you when your contract ended. Said you were obsolete." Teeman's hands clenched into fists. Hana appeared beside him. She studied the woman carefully. "We should help her," Teeman whispered. "It's a trap," Hana said quietly. "Look at her collar. That's not a standard slave collar. It's a tracking device. So she's bait? Probably. Someone hoping we'd do exactly what we're thinking of doing." Hana watched the woman for another moment. "But she's also human, and she's suffering. Come on." They bought the woman for 20 credits. The merchant seemed surprised anyone wanted her. As soon as they got her back to the ship and removed the collar, the woman collapsed. Her name was Jiwan. She was a neuroscientist who had worked at a Vin research facility studying human brain chemistry. When she got too old for their liking, they sold her rather than pay for transport home. "I knew it was a risk working for them," Jiwan said, sitting in the ship's galley with a hot drink. "But human scientists don't have many options. We're not allowed in most academic institutions. The Vin facility was one of the few places that would hire me." Hana sat across from her. "What were you researching?" "Neural plasticity in humans versus other species." "It was fascinating work. Did you know human brains physically restructure themselves more readily than any other known species? We're constantly rewiring our neural pathways based on new experiences." "I know," Hana said quietly. "I have something in my brain that shouldn't be possible in other species." Jiwan's eyes widened. "You're the one they're looking for. The woman with the archive data." She started to stand. "I should go." "I don't want to be involved in." "Sit," Teeman said firmly. "You're involved whether you like it or not." That collar was a tracker. "Someone will be here soon." As if on cue, the station alarm sounded. Multiple ships were approaching. Teeman ran to the cockpit and saw them on sensors. 8 vessels this time, and they weren't fighting each other. They were working together. "They formed an alliance," Hana said, reading the data. "Vin, Krell, and 3 other species. They've agreed to share whatever they find. Can we run?" Teeman asked. Hana studied the formations. "Not this time. They've learned. They're positioned to block every escape route." Jiwan appeared in the doorway. "I might know a way out. When I worked at the facility, I had to study old jump charts. There's an unstable wormhole near here. Most ships avoid it because the exit point is unpredictable. But if we're desperate, how? How unpredictable? Teeman asked. Could dump us anywhere in 1,000 light years? Could tear the ship apart. 50-50 odds. The pursuing ships opened fire. The station's shields absorbed the hits, but they wouldn't last long. Civilian stations weren't built for military assaults. Hana made the decision. Show us the wormhole. Jiwan pulled up the coordinates. You're serious? This is suicide. So is staying here, Hana replied. She looked at Teeman. Your ship. Your choice. Teeman thought about the past weeks. About Hana standing on that auction platform, worth nothing to everyone except him. About every human like Jiwan who got used up and discarded. About a galaxy that saw his species as trash. Let's do it, he said. They launched from the station as explosions rocked the docking bay. The pursuing ships immediately gave chase. Teeman pushed the engines hard, heading for the coordinates Jiwan had provided. There. Jiwan pointed at the screen. Space seemed to shimmer and twist in a small area. The wormhole. It looked like a tear in reality, pulsing with energy. That doesn't look stable, Teeman said. It's not, Jiwan confirmed. The gravitational shear should rip us apart. Should? Hana asked. Unless we do something no other species would try. Something insane. Jiwan pulled up calculations on the screen. We need to rotate the ship at exactly the right moment. Match our angular momentum to the wormhole's fluctuations. It would require split-second timing and reactions faster than any species is capable of. Except humans, Hana said. She was smiling, though. Because we can do things we shouldn't be able to do. We adapt. Teeman understood. Hand-eye coordination. Reaction time. Pattern recognition. Other species rely on computers for precision flying. Humans just do it. This is crazy, Jiwan said. But she was smiling too. Let me help. I can calculate the rotation pattern. The three of them worked together. Jiwan called out numbers. Hana handled navigation. Teeman flew the ship. Behind them, the pursuing vessels got closer. Rotation in 3, Jiwan said. 2, 1, now. Teeman spun the ship 90 degrees. The wormhole swallowed them. Reality twisted sideways. Teeman felt like his body was being stretched and compressed at the same time. Red lights filled the cockpit. Warning alarm screamed. Counter-rotate. Jiwan shouted, Now! Teeman pulled the controls. The ship spun the opposite direction. The gravitational forces evened out. For a moment, they hung in impossible space between reality and something else. Forward thrust. Hana called. Full power. The engines roared. The ship shot through the wormhole and burst out the other side. Normal space returned. Stars appeared. They were alive. Behind them, the wormhole collapsed. The pursuing ships hadn't dared follow. All three of them sat in silence for a moment. We did it, Jiwan whispered. We actually did it. Where are we? Teeman asked. Hana checked the navigation. According to these coordinates, we're in uncharted space. Way out on the edge of the frontier. This region isn't even properly mapped. She pulled up a wider view. In the distance, something was visible. A massive structure floating in the void. It was impossibly old, made of materials that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Is that double Kotung started? The archive, Hana finished. The wormhole brought us exactly where we needed to go. That's impossible, Jiwan said. Random wormholes don't just deposit you at your destination. Hana looked at her. Unless the destination is calling to something. To someone. She touched her head. The data in my brain. It's not just coordinates. It's a key. And the archive sensed it. They stared at the ancient structure. After weeks of running, they'd found it. The thing everyone was hunting for. The power that could reshape the galaxy. What do we do now? Teeman asked. Hannah took a deep breath. Now we find out what the archive really is. And we decide if the galaxy deserves to know. She started piloting them closer. Jiwan and Teeman exchanged glances, but said nothing. They'd come this far. Might as well see it through to the end. The archive grew larger as they approached. It was beautiful and terrifying. A monument to a species that had died millions of years ago. A test left behind for whoever might follow, and 3 humans were about to take that test. The archive was even larger up close. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, a structure that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. Its surface shifted between solid and transparent, showing glimpses of endless corridors inside. How do we get in? Teeman asked. Hannah pressed her hand against her temple. The data in my brain. It's activating. I can feel it. A section of the archive's wall shimmered and became an entrance. A pathway of light extended toward their ship. I guess we're invited, Jiwan said quietly. They docked the wandering star and walked down the light pathway. It felt solid under their feet, but looked like pure energy. The 3 humans moved slowly, staying close together. When they crossed the threshold into the archive, the entrance sealed behind them. Inside was silence. Perfect, complete silence. They stood in a vast chamber that seemed to have no walls or ceiling. Just endless white space stretching in all directions. Hello? Teeman called. His voice didn't echo. A figure materialized in front of them. It looked humanoid, but not quite human. Tall and thin, with features that seemed to shift depending on how you looked at them. The figure was made of the same light as the pathway. Welcome, it said. The voice came from everywhere at once. I am the archive's guardian. I have waited a very long time for your species. Our species? Hannah stepped forward. You knew humans would come? Not specifically humans, but a species like yours. One that survived by being underestimated. One that learned wisdom from weakness. The guardian gestured, and the white space filled with images. My creators were very much like you, small, physically weak, but brilliant in ways the dominant species of their time could not comprehend. The images showed a civilization, beings similar to the guardian, building impossible structures, creating technology that bent physics, growing into a galaxy-spanning empire, while larger, stronger species dismissed them as irrelevant. What happened to them? Jiwan asked. They made mistakes. Great mistakes. And they built this archive to document those mistakes, to warn whoever came after. The guardian waved his hand, and the images changed. Now they showed war. Destruction on massive scales. Planets burning. Species going extinct. All wielding technology similar to what they'd glimpsed in the earlier images. My creators discovered something important too late, the guardian said. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. They created weapons that could unmake reality. They built tools that could reshape biology itself. They achieved godlike abilities. And they nearly destroyed everything. The images showed a final war. The creators fighting amongst themselves. Each faction believing they alone should control the ultimate technology. In the end, they all lost. The species went extinct, wiped out by their own creations. They built me in their final days, the guardian continued. Not as a treasure vault, but as a warning. The archive contains no weapons, no ultimate technology. What it contains is memory. Every failed civilization we encountered. Every path that led to extinction. Every mistake that must not be repeated. Hannah felt tears on her face. They wanted to teach the next species to avoid their fate. Yes, but teaching requires a student ready to learn. Most species who discover coordinates to this place seek power. They want weapons. They want dominance. My creators programmed me to deny such seekers access. Then why let us in? Teeman asked. The Guardian looked at each of them. Because you have already learned the most important lesson. That being dismissed and underestimated can make you wise. That surviving hardship teaches empathy. That seeing value in broken things shows a mind capable of seeing beyond surface appearances. He gestured to Hannah. You endured years of degradation, but never lost your humanity. Never sought revenge. You protected this knowledge not to keep power for yourself, but to keep it from those who would misuse it. To Teeman, you saw worth where everyone else saw trash. You risked everything for a stranger because it was right, not because it was profitable. To Jiwan, you dedicated your life to understanding minds, seeking knowledge even when your own species was dismissed and degraded. The Guardian smiled. My creators would have liked you. You remind me of them before they lost their way. What do we do with this? Hannah asked. If it's just warnings about mistakes, why does everyone want it so badly? Because the warnings are specific, detailed. Understanding what destroyed previous civilizations gives knowledge of how to avoid those pitfalls. It makes survival possible, but it also requires humility, the willingness to learn from failures rather than to repeat successes. The white space changed again. Now it showed the current galaxy. All the species fighting over the archive. The wars and destruction spreading. If I gave this knowledge to any single faction, they would use it to justify their own actions, to prove their superiority, to claim they alone can avoid past mistakes. The Guardian looked sad. But if I give it to a species already humbled, already aware of their limitations, ... You want to give it to humanity? Jiwan's eyes widened. I want to give it to the galaxy, through humanity. Your species has something rare, the ability to see yourselves as fallible. Other species believe their way is correct. They were the apex predators of their homeworlds. They evolved to dominate. But humans evolved to cooperate, to learn, to adapt. The Guardian moved closer to Hannah. I can extract the data from your neural pathways safely now, and I can give you something in return. Full access to the archive's memories. Not weapons or power, but wisdom. Every mistake that destroyed civilizations before yours. Every warning my creators wished they had heeded. And then what? Hannah asked. We just share it? You share it carefully. You create a system where anyone can access the archive's knowledge, but only if they prove they can see past their own biases. Only if they demonstrate the wisdom to learn from failure rather than to repeat it. Teeman laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. The galaxy will never accept humans as teachers. We're the lowest species. They won't listen to us. They will, the Guardian said firmly, because you will prove something they cannot deny. You solved the puzzle they could not. You reached the archive when no other species could. That will force them to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. It won't change everything overnight, Jiwan said thoughtfully. But it's a start. A crack in their certainty. Hannah looked at her two companions. This is bigger than me. If we do this, we're choosing a path for all of humanity. Maybe for the whole galaxy. Yes, the Guardian agreed. And that is why the choice must be made by someone who understands the weight of it. Someone who has been dismissed and broken and rebuilt. Someone who knows the price of power. Hannah closed her eyes. She thought about the auction block. About 3 years of degradation. About every moment she'd been treated as worthless. She thought about Teeman seeing her when no one else could. About Jiwan thrown away when she was no longer useful. about every human struggling in a galaxy that didn't value them. She opened her eyes. Do it. Extract the data. Give us the archive's knowledge. But on one condition. What condition? The archive stays open. Not just to humans, but to anyone who learns to see clearly. Anyone from any species who can look at something broken and see its value. Anyone who has been dismissed and learned wisdom from it. The archive should be a place for the underestimated. The Guardian was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. My creators would have approved. Very well. He touched Hannah's forehead. Light flowed between them. The pain in Hannah's head, the constant pressure of carrying the encrypted data for 3 years, suddenly vanished. The data flowed out of her and into the archive system's dot in return. Knowledge flowed in. Not overwhelming her, but settling gently into her mind. The history of 100 dead civilizations. The patterns that led to their falls. The warnings that came too late. Timin and Jiwan gasped as the same knowledge touched their minds. Not as completely as Hana received it, but enough. Enough to understand. This is incredible, Jiwan whispered. This is everything my research hinted at. The common factors in societal collapse. The patterns we couldn't see because we lacked historical data. And now you can share it, the Guardian said. Create your system. Open the archive to those who are ready. Teach the galaxy that wisdom comes from learning, not from strength. The white space faded. They were back in the entrance chamber. The Guardian remained visible. One more thing, he said. Your ship has been upgraded. Nothing that would make you a military power, but improvements to help you travel and teach. You will need them. What about the factions chasing us? Timin asked. I will broadcast a message to the galaxy. I will tell them the archive has been claimed, that its knowledge is now held by humanity and will be shared according to human terms. They will be angry. Some will try to take it by force. Then we'll stop them, Hana said firmly. The same way we got here, by being underestimated and using it. The Guardian nodded. Go then, begin your work. Prove that broken things can change the galaxy. They walked back to the wandering star. The ship was different now, sleeker, faster, but still recognizably theirs. Still patched and worn in places. Still a salvager's ship dot as they departed the archive. The Guardian's broadcast reached the galaxy. Every species heard the same message. The archive had been found. Its secrets were held by humans. Access would be granted to those who proved worthy. Regardless of species or power, the reactions were immediate. Outrage, disbelief, fury that the weakest species had claimed the greatest prize, but also curiosity, and slowly grudging respect. Because humans had done what no one else could. They had solved the impossible problem. And that forced the galaxy to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Months later, Hannah stood in another slave market. But this time, she wasn't in chains. She was buying. She paid 5 credits for a human who everyone called worthless. The human looked at her with suspicious eyes. Why? Because I know what you're worth, Hana replied. And I know what you can become. She took the human back to her ship, now part of a small fleet. Timin was there. Jiwan was there. And 20 other humans, all rescued from markets and prisons and desperate situations. They were building something new. Not a military force. Not an empire. But a network of teachers and learners. Humans helping humans. And slowly, carefully, teaching the galaxy that wisdom is found in unexpected places. The archive's message spread. More species came seeking knowledge, expecting to be given power. Instead, they were given questions, challenges, tests of character. Those who passed learned valuable lessons. Those who failed learned humility and humanity, The species everyone had dismissed became the galaxy's teachers. Not through force, not through domination, but through the wisdom that comes from being broken and rebuilding yourself. Hannah stood in the ship's cockpit, looking at the stars. She thought about the auction block where Teeman had found her, about being worth 5 credits to a galaxy that should have known better. "What are you thinking?" Teeman asked, joining her. "That sometimes the best thing that can happen is being underestimated," Hannah replied, "because it teaches you things power never could." "Like what?" "Like patience, like wisdom, like seeing value where others see nothing." She smiled. "Like knowing that being dismissed as broken is sometimes the first step toward changing everything." Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, and somewhere among them, more humans waited to be found. More people worth 5 credits who would prove themselves priceless. The galaxy was learning. Slowly, painfully, but learning. That strength comes in many forms. That wisdom often hides in unexpected places. And that the most valuable things are often the ones everyone else calls broken. Hannah's journey had started on an auction block. Now it was just beginning.